So you've got a basic mead kit, but you want to go beyond the basics. Here are our top 10 mead styles that you can make at home. Mead making is an art as old as time. And if you've made mead before, you probably made what's called a traditional mead. That's honey, water, and yeast. And sometimes you'll add a little bit of tannin or a little bit of acid, maybe by way of oak or lemon juice, in order to enhance that mead and give it a more rounded flavor. But there are mead styles beyond the traditional mead. It's one of the most versatile homebrewed drinks out there. And so today, we're going to run you through our top 10 favorite mead styles that you can make at home. And make sure you check out our mead kits at CraftaBrew.com. We've got a little bit of everything from recipe kits to gear kits to holistic kits that contain everything you need to get started making mead as soon as it hits your doorstep. Let's start with number 10, historical and regional styles. This covers things like Polish styles like the Dwoźniak or Troźniak, or Ethiopian styles like tej. Polish styles are big, long-aged meads. High ABV, generally pretty high sweetness. And they can be a lot of fun to make, but they do require a little bit of extra effort as far as getting a good healthy fermentation and balancing on the back end of fermentation. Tej is a fermented honey drink, so technically a mead, and it is made in Ethiopia using a plant called gesho. Some folks use the stems, some folks use the leaves, some folks use both, but in the end it's generally drank young, sometimes a little bit sparkling or petulant, and it's got a nice, sweet herbal flavor. One of my favorites. Number 9 is the Bochet. Bochet is a style of mead made from caramelized honey. Essentially, you put your honey into a pot, put it on a low simmer, and caramelize some of those sugars so you get those toffee, butterscotch, and toasted notes. Pairs well with dark fruits, pairs well with vanilla, and it can be great as a big sack-style mead or a nice, light, refreshing hydromel. But you do want to be careful. Caramelizing honey can cause burns if it gets on you, and that's why a lot of folks have moved to caramelizing their honey overnight on low in a crock pot. Number 8, the Cyser. A Cyser sounds a whole lot like cider, doesn't it? It's made with apple juice or apple cider in primary, so you get a big punch of apple and a nice delicate floral flavor from the honey. The Cyser is one of the most popular mead styles, and it can be big and heavy or light and refreshing depending on what you want to do with it. Also, the Cyser is great at highlighting a honey varietal. Something like alfalfa or orange blossom honey is going to play very different than something like buckwheat or mesquite honey. And if you're looking for a little bit of seasonal flair, the Cyser works great with spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and clove. But generally, you want to add those spices after fermentation is done because sometimes fermented spices can give off a little bit of a soapy flavor. A Cyser can be a lot of fun, especially when you add a little bit of fruit like berries or pineapple. Number 7 is the Pyment. Pyment is a mead style made with grape juice, grape must, or even grape solids. And the Pyment can be wildly different depending on your source of grapes. If you're using wine grapes like Chardonnay or Merlot, it's going to be a lot different than if you're using grocery store juice like white grape or Concord juice. Pyments are great. They're relatively acid balanced from the beginning, though you might want a little bit of sweetness to bring back some of that honey character, but they're generally relatively smooth ferments and super versatile drinks. Pyments generally do have a big wine-like character, and red wine Pyments can be big and thick and tannic and rich, while white wine Pyments can be light and delicate, floral and fruity. It really depends on the juice you choose and the honey varietal that you choose. I love a white wine Pyment with orange blossom honey. Number 6, the Metheglin. Now, this isn't what it sounds. This is not a Breaking Bad mead. A Metheglin is a mead made with spices or herbs, and that's the primary flavor profile along with the honey. Think something like a pumpkin spice mead, or a mead made with rosemary and basil. A Metheglin can be a very distinct style of mead, and some people make them just to use as cooking meads in the kitchen. Some of the most common spices to use are cinnamon, clove, ginger, chamomile, meadowsweet, and even peppercorns. The Metheglin is a very versatile style of mead. Now again, some people like the flavor of fermented spices. Some folks like spices added in secondary. There's a certain palate type me included, where fermented spices taste like soap. And so generally for safety's sake, I like to put them in secondary so that way I know that folks aren't going to end up tasting soap in my mead. Your mileage may vary, but open that pantry door and I'm sure you'll have some Metheglin inspiration. Halfway through the list, number 5, the Melomel. A melomel is a fruit-based mead. It can be made with whole fruit or dried fruit or even fruit juices like strawberry juice or pineapple juice. You could do a big rich berry mead or a delicate and sweet stone fruit mead, or maybe lean into something that's tropical or citrus or both. Like many of the other mead styles we've talked about, the melomel is incredibly versatile and you can do a lot of fun stuff with the style. I have even made a mead with durian. Now there are some considerations making a melomel. If you put fruit in primary, it's going to end with a winier-like finish or maybe a cidery kind of finish. If you put your fruit in secondary, you're going to get a more fresh fruit finish. But the big brain move is to use a little bit of fruit in primary and a little bit of fruit in secondary so you get a balanced blend of both characters. For the melomel, a yeast choice is super important, so make sure you look at the spec sheet for your yeast to make sure it is going to highlight those fruity flavors. Number 4, the Capsicumel. The capsicum family is the family of peppers. That might be sweet peppers, bell peppers, or super spicy peppers like the ghost pepper or Carolina Reaper. And there are a lot of different ways of adding peppers into your mead. If you use fresh peppers, you're going to get more of a vegetal flavor. If you use dried peppers, you're going to get more leather notes and dry fruit notes. Dried peppers bring a nice earthiness to a mead. If you're trying to dose your Capsicumel just for heat, consider making a tincture out of peppers by putting dried or fresh peppers into some vodka or other grain alcohol and letting that infuse, and then you can dose that heat into your Capsicumel so you get the perfect level of heat. Just understand that the heat level is going to grow a little bit during aging before it then plateaus and falls back off. So your Capsicumel might need a little bit of age to hit its stride. If you're using whole peppers, whether fresh or dried, contact time is super important. For example, in a 1-gallon batch, I have found that just 1 hour with a single ghost pepper is enough to infuse an almost unbearable heat. And so you really want to be tasting it along the way to make sure you don't over-infuse your peppers. Number 3, the Acerglyn. Acerglyn is a mead made with maple syrup. And don't be going for the pancake syrup, that flavored high fructose corn syrup. Get some really good maple syrup. I like maple syrup from Vermont or Canada, but your mileage may vary. Some folks will even tap the maple trees in their own yard to boil it down for an Acerglyn. Now the flavor of maple syrup sometimes dissipates during primary fermentation, so a lot of folks will add some in primary, but generally the idea is to back sweeten with maple syrup after fermentation is done and your mead is stabilized, so that way you get a nice big rich maple syrup character. Maple syrup adds a caramel, rich, almost buttery character to your mead. And it works great really for big styles, like a big sack mead that's got a nice sweetness that you might serve along with a dessert, like cheesecake. And since you're making a mead, honey choice is important. I like something nice and dark and rich, like a late season wildflower or clover honey, maybe alfalfa honey, but sometimes pairing something big and bright like orange blossom honey can be really nice. Pro tip, a little bit of dark molassesy buckwheat honey can really enhance the flavor of maple syrup. Number 2, the Braggot. A Braggot is a blend of styles between beer and mead. And the real balance you're trying to strike there is a balance between the malt and the honey. If you lean too hard into the malt, it's just going to taste like a beer. But if you lean too hard into the honey, it's going to thin and dry out the beer and make it taste kind of watery. You want to use a really big, expressive honey like orange blossom honey or mesquite honey, something that's really going to stand up next to the malt. And you might consider using a sweet malt like honey malt to kind of reinforce some of the honey flavor. Hops choice is also super important. You want to choose a hop that is going to pair well with your honey varietal, hopefully enhance it. So for example, if you're using orange blossom honey, you might use Calypso and Citra hops to kind of reinforce that orange blossom flavor. And since honey can dry out a Braggot, you might need to consider adding some glycerol or maltodextrin, something to thicken it back up before you bottle it, so that way it's not too dry and just kind of ends up tasting like a thin beer. And finally, our number 1 choice, the session mead, aka hydromel. A session mead is generally recognized as a low alcohol mead, generally between the range of about 3.5 to 8% ABV. They are light, they are refreshing, often served carbonated or petulant to kind of enhance the flavors because a thinner, lighter mead can sometimes feel kind of flat and flabby. So adding a little bit of sparkle enhances everything in that brew. Session meads are also really quick turnaround. If you've got a kegging setup, for example, you can generally have one kegged and drinkable in under 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks from the time you've pitched your yeast to pouring a pint, which is an incredible speed for mead. I've got a need for speed. A need for mead speed. I'll workshop that. You're really going to want to work toward a balance between acid, tannin, and all those little bubbles to make sure everything works really well. Basically, it should taste excellent before it goes into the keg or into the bottles, knowing that that sparkle is going to enhance all your flavors as well as contribute just a slight sense of acidity. Session meads are flavor forward, easy drinking, and arguably my favorite mead style. And you're seeing it in the competition realm. A lot of sparkling, sessionable meads are winning awards these days. What are your favorite mead styles? Drop a comment and let us know. Is it something from this list or something totally off the wall like a Bilbamel or a Morat? Didn't even mention those. Mead is my favorite alcoholic beverage because it is just so incredibly versatile. There's so many different flavors that work well paired with honey and enhanced by the flavors of alcohol and sometimes carbon dioxide. I love the diverse nature of mead, and I love that it's often relatively easy to make as long as you're following some very simple best practices. We have a video on how to create your own mead recipe, as well as a video on just start to finish how to make mead. We'll put the links to those videos in the description and on the end screen of this video. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming content here at CraftaBrew. I'm BC for CraftaBrew, and until next time, I hope you've got good things brewing.